afternoon. It's Tuesday, January 24th. I'm Laura Cornfield, and this is IBA News broadcasting live from Jerusalem. The Knesset State Control Committee unanimously decided today to put off until next Sunday the slated publication of a state comptroller's report detailing a breakdown in communications between the Prime Minister and his security cabinet during Operation Protective Edge. The committee stressed publication of the material requires further parliamentary discussion because it involves sensitive information related to state security. Reporter Sam Sokol has the story.
The report, which details his deliberations of the cabinet, is said to be particularly harsh on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Opposition lawmakers have been calling for its release for some time, alleging that it contradicted the official government narrative. According to the Hebrew daily Haaretz, confidants of the Prime Minister have been in discussions on how best to block the report's publication on security grounds. Education Minister Naftali Bennett and Yesh Atid Chair Yair Lapid, both of whom were members of the cabinet during the conflict, have asserted that Netanyahu failed to provide them with a full picture of events at the time. This includes the extent of Hamas's tunnel network and other operational details. While the Prime Minister has disputed these claims, recent leaks indicate that the report vindicates his critics. Bennett described the report as a political earthquake and urged Netanyahu to convene the cabinet to discuss its lessons, adding that any revelations should not be used to make heads roll. Former Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon hit back, stating that politicians who had leaked parts of the report to the press had crossed a red line. He also singled out Bennett, saying that his conduct during the war had been irresponsible. Bennett had publicly criticized the government's handling of the war while it was still being waged. Ya'alon also stated that the war had accomplished its goal in silencing Hamas fire, targeting tunnels, and deterring further aggression. Despite this morning's vote, it may take up to several weeks for a final draft of the report to reach the public. This is Sam Sokol for IBA News.
The funeral of Yaqub Abu al-Kiyan, the Bedouin driver killed in last week's confrontations in the village of el-Harin, was held this afternoon without incident amid a high police presence. This after the High Court yesterday rejected the police demand that the body only be released for burial if the family agreed to certain restrictions out of concern that the funeral will trigger disturbances. Thousands took part in today's funeral, including many Arab MKs who condemned the shooting of al-Kiyan and called on the government to establish a commission of inquiry into the incident. Abu al-Kiyan was shot dead by police after he allegedly drove his vehicle into a group of officers present at the site during last week's house demolitions, killing police officer Erez Levi. Police had held onto the body, claiming that Abu al-Kiyan was a terrorist and that his family refused to commit to conditions designed to limit the time of the funeral and the number of participants, so the event won't turn into a mass protest. However, relatives of the Bedouin driver refused to accept the conditions, petitioned the High Court, and demanded the immediate release of his body. Several Druze villages have declared a strike today, protesting intentions to demolish 4 homes in the village of Marar in the Lower Galilee. Recent protests have taken place against Israeli authorities' general policy of home demolitions and their refusal for expansion of the municipalities. The strike was announced by the Forum of Druze Sector Local Authority Heads. The protest march took place this afternoon. In a separate development, with just over 2 weeks to go until the slated demolition of the illegal outpost of Amona, the High Court of Justice has temporarily frozen work on a proposed plan to relocate the evacuated Amona residents, situating them in an adjacent plot near the hilltop. The court issued the interim injunction in response to a petition by Palestinians who claim they own the land, which is slated for housing the Amona families. Residents of Amona held an emergency meeting last night to discuss the latest court decision. They have yet to announce what their next plan of action will be, but did stress that they are no longer bound to last month's deal reached with the government, which urged them to peacefully leave the illegal outpost without a potentially violent standoff. Turning now to the ongoing investigations against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Channel 10 has reported that the Prime Minister is being probed on 2 more affairs in addition to Case 1000, which involves the receiving of improper personal gifts valued at hundreds of thousands of shekels, and Case 2000, surrounding conversations he had with the publisher of Yediot Achronot newspaper, Arno Noni Moses. One of the 2 new probes, dubbed Case 3000, surrounds the so-called German submarine affair, in which Netanyahu's personal lawyer, David Shimron, was suspected of having a possible conflict of interest in representing German shipbuilder ThyssenKrupp while it was selling Israel naval vessels. Details of the fourth probe, dubbed Case 4000, have yet to be revealed. Netanyahu is expected to be questioned by police for the third time later this week. Meanwhile, in related news, the saga surrounding billionaire Arnon Milchan, who allegedly gave the Netanyahu family the expensive gifts, has stepped up a notch. An attorney representing Milchan warned Likud MK David Amsalem that unless he apologizes within 48 hours for accusing him of corruption, he'll be slapped with a lawsuit. This after Amsalem, considered very close to Netanyahu, questioned Milchan's character in a number of radio interviews, suggesting that the Hollywood producer may have lied about giving the Netanyahus the gifts. A legal team working on behalf of Milchan sent the Likud lawmaker a letter saying that if he doesn't publicly apologize for his remarks and refrain from making other defamatory statements, Milchan will pursue legal action, a threat which legal experts say isn't quite effective at this point, since Amsalem enjoys parliamentary immunity. Amidst angry protests, the sentencing stage has begun over the fate of Elor Azaria, the 21-year-old IDF sergeant convicted of manslaughter for the fatal shooting of a wounded Palestinian attacker in Hebron last March. The prosecution has asked for a 3 to 5 year prison term for Azaria, while the defense team is attempting to reduce the sentence to 18 months, claiming that the Palestinian was already dead when he was shot and the judicial process was destroyed when the army obstructed evidence. The Israeli public remains divided over the affair, with those who believe that Azaria was wrongly tried and others who believe the conviction was the appropriate consequence of his actions. The rioting has resulted in several citizens' arrests for inciting violence and issuing death threats against the judges who handed down the conviction. An Israeli who went abroad to fight against the Islamic State has been charged with murder. It was released for publication today that Ben Hassin, a 21-year-old resident of Tel Aviv, is being held in a Muslim country that Israel has no diplomatic relations with. According to Hassin, he was speaking Hebrew in a cab when he became fearful that the driver intended to turn him over to ISIS terrorists. He then shot and killed the driver. The foreign ministry said that they have been in touch with the family for some time and hope that efforts to release the young man from custody will produce results. There is growing concern that if found guilty, he could be executed. It appears that outgoing U.S. President Barack Obama gave the Palestinians a farewell present right before leaving office. According to the Associated Press, Obama signed off on $221 million to be transferred to the PA in his final hours at the White House on Friday, defying Republican opposition. At least 2 GOP members had until then been holding up the funds. The move was announced by a State Department official and several congressional aides who spoke on condition of anonymity. According to AP, more than $227 million in foreign affairs funding were released at the time, including $4 million for climate change programs and $1.25 million for UN organizations. Meanwhile, while many in Jerusalem are waiting for the new U.S. President Donald Trump to make good on his promise to transfer the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem, the White House says there is still no definite decision on the matter. Speaking in his first official press briefing, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer responded to a question about how the administration thought such a move would serve U.S. strategic interests.
As I noted yesterday through several press inquiries, there's no decisions. We're at the very early stages of that decision-making process.
There was an earlier question about Jerusalem and putting the U.S. Embassy there, and a lot of talk about executive orders. Is this something the president can accomplish by executive order?
It is, but I think, as I noted, John, it's very early in this process. We're at the beginning stages of this decision-making process, and his team's going to continue to consult with stakeholders as we get there. Yeah.
One local developer has taken advantage of the excitement over the possibility of an embassy move to promote his own business. Johnny Finn, a British immigrant, has erected a 50-foot-tall billboard in Jerusalem wishing President Trump Mazal Tov and offering his services in constructing a new diplomatic mission in the capital. Finn, who is certain that Trump will move the embassy, told the Jewish Daily Forward that the billboard was a cheeky Jewish joke. A sharp turn now. The carnage on the nation's roads continues. 4 people were killed in a head-on collision between a transportation vehicle and a private car in the north of the country yesterday. The accident took place in the Upper Galilee near Kibbutz Farod. 3 teenagers, 2 women and 1 man, were pronounced dead at the scene. Another 65-year-old woman died en route to hospital. 5 others were seriously wounded and another moderately. The injured were evacuated by helicopters and ambulances to Rambam Hospital in Haifa and Ziv Hospital in Tzfat. The Or Yarok Road Safety Organization said the writing was on the wall and that they have warned several times in the past that Highway 866, where the accident occurred, was extremely dangerous. Since the start of the year, this past month alone, 25 people have lost their lives in traffic-related accidents. And exactly 1 week on the loose, Connor the monkey that escaped from the Ramat Gan safari has returned home to his natural habitat in Ramat Gan, that is. The little 17-year-old male primate of the capuchin species was spotted last week taking in some city action in Tel Aviv, not far from the Ramat Gan Stadium. After a week of monkeying around, he somehow made it back into the safari park area, where zookeepers managed to lure him into a trap with a string of peanuts. He was returned without harm back to his clan, where he received a warm welcome and was treated to his other favorite snack, floor moth caterpillars. And from the zoo to the ocean, and a pool of sharks has swarmed off Israel's northern shore. Several dozens of the huge fish were spotted cruising through the water off the coast of Hadera. The sharks, which could reach up to 3 meters in length, were apparently drawn by the warm water discharged from the Hadera power plant. When many shark enthusiasts and photographers flocked to the area to witness the phenomenon firsthand, authorities are warning curious divers to stay away. Adi Barash, a marine biology student of Haifa University who has been conducting research on the sharks, says the phenomena is quite unique, particularly in the Mediterranean.
And this is amazing. You can actually stand from the shore and watch the sharks in the water. We don't know of any other place like this, definitely not in the Mediterranean. Sharks are disappearing all over the world. And the worst place to be a shark is in the Mediterranean. They're decreasing very, very fast in numbers. And the fact that you can see sharks here, big sharks close to shore, is amazing. We don't know yet why they're coming there. It might be just because of the warm water, it might be because there's more food there, it might be for the gestation period, for the pregnancy, but we don't know it yet.
In local money matters, shares were up on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange while the shekel was mixed in foreign currency trading. Here are the numbers. Turning to the weather, and tomorrow the unseasonable warm weather will continue throughout the country. Here are the highs and lows at home and abroad. And that's all for this newscast. Ari O'Sullivan will be here tomorrow, same time, same channel. Until then, I'm Laura Cornfield wishing you a good evening and shalom from Jerusalem.